Good evening, folks. Wanted to take a few minutes to upload some information regarding your review of literature assignment, like I said that I would. This week we beam to you from sunny Panama City in Panama, so it's been an interesting week for me, and I know that it has been for you. So let's take a quick look at the assignment. Before we do so, feedback on your earlier question and research topic was completed today, and you should have copies of that now. So that will give you your first indication of how your review of literature should progress. Within that, you've got an idea of those areas of strength and those areas that you might want to think a little bit more about. And for most of you, that just involves clarifying the question or making sure that you try not to bring your own personal feelings or bias into the review, because obviously it's important that you act as you write as neutrally as possible. So let's look at the review. This is quite a challenging assignment on a number of levels, and for most students it's the most complex and time-consuming assignment, so don't worry too much about that. But you will probably need to work longer hours this week than you might have done in your first 2 weeks, and that you might do in the coming weeks. 3 parts of the assignment. The first part of the assignment is for you to complete your collection of sources. That's obviously going to make up your reference page, and really the key there is to do 2 things. Firstly, you need to make sure that your sources are credible and scholarly. And that doesn't mean that you can only use articles or scholarly journals. You can certainly use other resources, web pages, books, even to some degree blogs, but they have to be of a distinction that most people would say suggest a scholarly attitude and tone. What you don't want to do is to be reviewing research that the average person would say this doesn't really mean anything. The second element that you need to consider is how you're going to find your questions in the articles. Sometimes when you conduct a search, whether that's in Google Scholar or in other areas, it's not always easy to find the exact articles that you're looking for. Many of them will appear at first to talk about the things that you're researching, but ultimately don't necessarily do that. So make sure that you read through the article before you decide to select it. Make sure that it really does have the information that is meaningful to your particular area of research. So we're going to look for scholarly articles that speak to the questions that we're going to look for, and we're going to attempt to get as many as we can, up to about 20 or so. And when it comes to writing the review, the more resources that you have, the more sources, and the better those sources are, the easier it is for you to obviously write your paper ultimately, because the better your evidence, the better your argument. Once you've done that assignment, you'll upload it to the discussion board, and you'll be able to see other people's resources and sources, and you'll be able to make some comparisons in terms of the number. The sorts of questions that I tend to get: do I have to have 20? No, you don't. You can have as many or as few as you want, but obviously you've clearly got to show that your review is going to look at the best parts of literature the way that you should. And then secondly, make sure that you use an APA format. There's a lot of sources and resources online that will show you how to format that, but just make sure that you follow the usual protocols and you should be okay. So the second part of the assignment is going to be the plan that you have, and there's a variety of ways to plan. Some people like to plan in terms of a diagram. Some people like to plan literally in terms of some sort of thinking chart. Other people like a traditional plan, which is going to be obviously based upon words and bullet points, etc., etc. There is a need for a detailed plan, though, and your plan really does need to show how you're going to progress through the resources that you found, the sources that you're going to use. Let me explain what I mean by that. Some people choose to review their literature chronologically. So they'll start with the earliest research and discuss how the research has changed and evolved as they talk about each of the sources that they have until they come to modern times. Some students will choose to organize their paper by themes. So they might talk about the paper and break it into 4 or 5 different subheadings. And as long as that's clearly understood, they'll then cluster the articles or the sources that they found into the best groups in order to help them with the organization of the paper. Some people will design their paper in terms of pros and in terms of cons. And so they'll organize their sources based upon what people feel in the article or in the source that they're using, whether they're for or against the hypothesis particularly. So it doesn't matter how you organize your paper, but clearly the plan needs to show how you're going to structure the paper, because it's going to be a multi-page paper. There's a lot of work that's going to go into it, and so having it organized and structured so that it's easy to follow and easy to read makes a big difference. It makes a difference to the writing and the plan itself, but it also makes a difference to the person who's reviewing it, so they can look at what you're hoping to do before they read your final paper to make sure that you've done that. So once you've designed that, and you can use any format for that, it doesn't matter whether you use Planning Tool or whether you just type it out, or even some students write it out and then scan it in. Again, that will be uploaded into the second of your discussion questions. So at that point, the first one will be the sources that you're going to use, or your reference page. The second one will be the plan for the review. And then you write the review. Make sure you follow APA format again, so to make sure that your thoughts have been documented appropriately. And take the time to make sure that you comment about each of the articles as it relates to your question. When you write the review, it should be one continuous paper. You should not divide it and break it down into sections depending on the source. And naturally, most sources would be a new paragraph, but it really should be one conscious stream of thought. And you've got a couple of examples in the information that I uploaded, so you can take a look at some good examples of what reviews of literature look like. And then obviously you can conduct your own research online to make sure that you have a good understanding of what the paper should read like before you start writing it. Make sure that you take the time to proof it afterwards, because your quality of writing does count here, and it does make a difference. And then once you've done that and completed it, you can upload the final version of your review into the assignment in the assignment slot in the same way that you would do normally in Moodle. Some students like to turn in all 3 together so that I can see the resources, then I can see the plan, and then I can read the paper. That's fine, but you won't lose any points if you haven't connected the first 2. I will have looked at them anyway when I look at the discussion boards, and so I'll have a good idea of where you're going and what's going to happen. So that's it. A long week for you this week, but once we've got through this, you've done, I think, probably the majority of the work for the course. If you have questions or concerns, if you need extensions or a bit more time, or if you have worries about it, feel free to reach out to me. I'll try and make myself available at some stage, either this week or early next week, for office hours so that you can connect with me. But feel free to shoot me an email or to reply in Moodle to one of the postings that I may have, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Enjoy the assignment. Hopefully the research is providing you with some fulfillment and enjoyment. And then when I see that, I'll be able to give you feedback fairly quickly so that you can move forward into your methodology, and so that we can get the 2 major parts of the paper completed. If you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, enjoy the week, and I will be speaking to you early next week. Take care. Bye-bye.